Hey kids, so this quarter we are going to be talking about informational or nonfiction text, with the focus being on author's purpose as well as some different vocabulary words, some that are familiar to you like connotation and compare, and some that may be less familiar like tone and mood. What we're going to be doing first is taking notes about the different words that you're going to be seeing. This will ultimately get glued in your notebook, so you have to decide now if you want to pause and glue this now, or if you want to write on it and then glue it when you're finished. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to first talk about author's purpose. And author's purpose should not be a new concept to you. Often you've seen it associated with tie, persuade, inform, entertain. But what we're going to be doing is making sure that as we talk about author's purpose, we continue that statement from just, well, they're informing us. Informing about what? Okay, so we're going to go through these notes first at the top of the page. I expect this to primarily be a review for you. So if at any point you need to make sure that you pause the video, please know as well that I do expect your notes to look like mine when they are completed. When you meet with your teacher during group time, we will be checking to make sure that you're following along and if this process is working for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with author's purpose. When an author is writing something, he or she has some sort of purpose. These kind of narrow down and simplify maybe some of that language for the purpose, but there's many other things that you could probably argue as well. We're going to start with inform or explain. To inform or explain is simply to tell about a topic. Telling about the topic, this is unbiased. Remember that unbiased information means that there's no side, generally speaking, that this person is taking. Sometimes it may feel like he or she wants you to believe one thing, but overall, their general purpose is simply to tell you about your topic. Examples of things that are informing may be, and just write down one example, but like your textbook may be informing you about things, a cookbook. Sometimes these can be seen as a little dry. You could argue that like biographies are often informing or explaining about a person's life, and that may be true, but oftentimes there's some sort of tilt or bias when it comes to biographies. What are they trying to get you to take away about that person as well? Okay, most news entities try to be in this informational explaining area, although as we know, as smart readers and researchers, that's not always the case, whether intended or not. Okay, all right, the next one we're going to look at is to argue or persuade. I put them both on here because they are slightly different, I feel. Persuade, you may be trying to get someone to believe something. When it's coming from persuasive elements, I feel that's where you're more trying to get someone on your side. Where arguing, although you believe the side that you're arguing, you may or may not care if the other person believes that. You'll also have to see in that argument that they presented both sides, or at least enough of both sides so that they can, disprove what they pick from the other side. So, but this type of writing does have some sort of bias to it, and it's not bias, but it's like often an intentional bias, maybe. But you should see that they have feelings about the topic. So, okay. Again, at any point, make sure that you pause so that you can make sure you're recording the information that you need. And by information you need, I mean like all the information. Okay, the next one is to entertain or to narrate. And again, the word entertain can be deceiving because sometimes like, well, I was entertained by the story or I was not entertained by the story. And really, it's not about what you took away from it. It's about what the author's intent was with the topic. So to entertain or narrate is basically to tell a story. Let me see. Tell a story of some kind. And again, it's not about you and your opinion about it. It is simply about what the author's intent was. So if you're like, well, their intent was to entertain with a scary story, and you're like, but I wasn't scared. That doesn't mean that that's not what the author's intent was. Okay. All right. And then the final author's purpose that we will look at is this idea of reflection. I want you to think about a mirror. Okay. And to reflect is actually one of the most powerful learning tools We've talked a little bit about that idea of stopping and pausing and thinking about our learning. And the reason we have you do that is because of the influence that it has on memory. So to reflect is to think back about experience. So you may think about like, what would I have done differently? What did I like about what I did? Teachers do this all the time, believe it or not. Like after we teach a lesson, we're like, well, what worked? How would we do it differently? How are we going to rearrange it? How can we make it make more sense? How can we reorder things? How can we do it better and clearer the next time? An example of this right here would be like a diary. Usually you're not writing in a diary about what's going to happen. You're thinking back to what did happen and, oh, I can't believe I did that. And what am I going to do next time? And, oh, no, 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 my mom's going to be so mad at me or whatever. But that's where we start. So author's purpose: inform, argue, entertain, reflect. When you word author's purpose, so if you're looking for that format, you'll say the author's purpose is blank, and then is to blank about blank. So for example, you would say the author's purpose is to inform about the structures of a cell, or the author's purpose is to narrate a story about a time that the author did blank, or the author's purpose is to reflect about the fight with a friend that they just had. The author's purpose is to argue that school should extend by about 3 hours per day, and that is a valid argument. So, all right, so you have taken the first part of your notes. There you go.